Hey guys, Joshua here with my tech buddy, and this is another episode of Ask Your Buddy. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about ransomware. It's something that has been in the news recently with a very public ransomware attack on Garmin. And so I've had a lot of people ask me, what is ransomware? Why is it scary? What can I do to prevent it? Or if I get ransomware, what can I do about it? Should I pay the ransom? So let's talk about it. Ransomware is a special type of virus that came out, I'll say probably 7 or 8 years ago at this point. You probably heard about CryptoLocker, CryptoWall, those were some of the early ones. And basically what it does is it goes through, and when it infects your computer, it encrypts the data on your computer, the files that you would normally use. It then pops up, it typically pops up on the screen, something that says, hey, if you pay me, give me a credit card number, send me Bitcoin, something like that. If you pay me, I'll decrypt your data. That's why it's called ransomware. They have a ransom for you. The reason that's a big deal is when the ransomware encrypts your data, you don't know the key or the password to decrypt the data. And so it means you no longer have access to it. Now, that could just mean you're frustrated because you lost files you were working with. It could mean you lost all the pictures of your kids when they were born. It could mean that you as a business just lost access to some of the important records that you need to remain compliant or licensed that allows you to stay in business or avoid paying a fine. And so a lot of people say, well, okay, now what? Do I pay the ransom? And the FBI has actually gone back and forth on that over the years. There were times where they said, don't pay the ransom because it's going to make you a target. They'll come after you again and again. And there's been times where they say, look, pay the ransom. There's really no other way to get at your data. The problem that I've seen, I've run into this at the companies that I've worked at, and the problem with paying the ransom is there's no guarantee that they're going to give you that password or that key to decrypt the data. In many cases, the people who wrote the viruses actually never recorded the key. They just created a random one when they infected your computer. And so they may not even have the ability to decrypt your data. And in the end, you just gave them money, so they no longer have an incentive to decrypt your data. So what can you do about it? To prevent ransomware, you are dealing with one of the more advanced types of viruses out there, and that's really where you do want to start to look at some of the next generation antivirus products. CrowdStrike is usually the one that I'll point people towards, but there's several good ones out there. That does not include the legacy antivirus like McAfee and Symantec. We talked about that in an earlier episode. But the next generation antiviruses are really pretty good. And once we started using those at the companies that I worked at, we were able to really make a dent in the ransomware issue, and we were able to stop a lot of the attacks. But antivirus isn't perfect, and there's always new types of viruses and new vulnerabilities that come out. And so you need a plan that if it is able to get through your antivirus, or if you don't have a next generation antivirus because they're expensive, you need a way to recover. And that's really where getting into data backup is very important. We talked about data backup in the last episode, and a couple of options for how this plays out. The way ransomware works typically is it will infect one computer and encrypt the data. It will then go through your network, look for more computers to encrypt and more devices like network attached storage to encrypt. So one of the first things you want to do is if you find out you have ransomware, unplug the cable, turn off the Wi-Fi, get whatever computer is infected off of your network so it doesn't infect everything else. From a data backup standpoint, if you're using something like Google Drive, where it's synchronizing your files up to the cloud, in some cases you can actually recover by going back to a previous version of the file and restoring the unencrypted version. If you're using more of the network attached storage process that we talked about in the previous one, where your computer synchronized to network attached storage and then it moves your data up to the cloud as an additional backup, depending on your network attached storage, you may be able to restore a previous version. But the real advantage with that is that you can go in to your cloud backups. They're offline, meaning your computer's not talking to them all the time, so they don't get infected when ransomware is exploring your network. And you can go there, get a copy. It might be a day old or 2 days old or a week old, depending on how often you back up to the cloud. But you can, oh, hi, Andrew. One fun thing with Ask Your Buddy is your buddy sometimes is at home with his kids when he's answering your questions. But you can get those backup copies. You can usually get your data back, and you can get back to business. One last note on ransomware, just something interesting. One of the most notable ransomware attacks that happened was a few years ago, the shipping giant Maersk. You've probably seen their containers on large ships or on trains. They were infected by ransomware, and it hit them globally. It shut them down for more than a week. And when you look at the business impact, the impact to their business of being shut down and needing to restore everything and restore it very quickly, it actually cost that company more money than the Target data breach cost Target. And so from a business standpoint, ransomware can stop you from doing business, and the recovery can be very expensive, especially if you don't have good backup. So that's it for this time. I look forward to talking to you again, and thanks for asking your buddy.